Well, you just played it
This
for
is
the
the
first
first time
now?
I've ever played it.
Why?
I really don't.
Because you're like 10 years old. That's all
I'm not. I was 12 when the game came out, but
And it's the black sheep of the Metroid family, though.
yeah, no one
Like Super Metroid, you know? It's kind of, become the template for most action-adventure games with puzzle elements. I mean, so many games, especially after Metroid Prime came out, started to kind of adopt the... Let's do one kind of awesomely detailed space. You'll explore it, and you'll come to places that you can't pass, but you remember what they look like, so that you know that you need to come back later when you have the machinery to let you get to wherever you want to go. Sure, the original Metroid did it, and so did Metroid 2. But I think Super Metroid, with its color-coded doors and that sort of thing, was when it really started to become part of the gaming vernacular. One of the things that it did that's ahead of its time is very nicely teach you these really tricky mechanics. I mean, it's a game where you essentially have to know that you can walk through walls. Right at the very beginning, there's a wall, that looks a little awkward, but it still is a wall, and you can't go forward unless you can bomb through that spot, and that really sets up from that point on, like, okay, I need to be checking everything, and I don't know if what I see in front of me is actually what it appears to be.
I think it's a perfect example of, the carrot on the stick. Every item I get in Super Metroid, I'm like, yes! I'm like, I can jump higher now, so now I can go to this place, and I can go to this place, and now I have the grapple. I just got the grapple beam, and so, I'm freaking out, I can't wait to go explore all the other
Are you really
areas.
that excited? Because you've seen this stuff since in modern games.
But it's just so well executed, and you start out, and you can't go anywhere, you feel very weak. Every enemy encounter, scares me, and so every time I do get something, when I got the phaser, when I got the ice beam, it was I felt so relieved, even though it's an old Super Nintendo game. That's feeling of exploring, of getting new items, of feeling empowered by doing that, and feeling rewarded for searching around forever to finally find that little stupid rock that I had to blow up to get down to grab whatever. It's just great
about it. The pacing is really great. I mean, you get to these points where you've looked at the map 20 times and you're staring at it, and there's only one blue spot over here and everything else is pink, and you're like, how do I get down there? And then you finally figure it out. It ends up taking you to one new area, and then all of a sudden you hit a map room and you get a whole new map for this entire unexplored area, and you're like, wow, okay, now I feel free again. And then it gets claustrophobic, and then you find that one spot again, and then it opens up.
Playing through it the first time, I would look at the map and I would see an area that I had no clue how to get to, and it would just frustrate me beyond all belief, because no, I cannot go any further until I find out how to get into this one room where there might be something, or there might not be anything at all, but I still want to find out how. Eventually, you get the X-ray.
Yeah.
That was a gift for me. But then I wanted to go back through everything. I have to go back through the whole game now using this little X-ray beam to see what I've missed. But it was awesome.
This is probably one of the few times, or the first times in a game, where you're kind of building a map as you go, and then they give you the map. They're telling you, look, here it is, here's the map of this area. But it's not all of it. You still have to go through and find areas that aren't on the map. I remember thinking, you gotta be kidding me, I've been running through this area since the beginning of the game, and there's all this up here as well? Holy shit, this game is amazing.
It's almost like game design ahead of its time, exposing this much of the map that you should know about. That's great for maybe a more casual player, but there's still more for you hardcore players as well.
What's your favorite area of Super Metroid?
Wrecked ship.
That's my favorite area.
The wrecked ship. It is hands down my favorite.
It's not really combat focused, and it's like when you walk into this place, it's a dead place.
Yeah, everything changes. It's very drastic. At least I felt that it was, because in order to get there, you have to go back outside. When you're down in the world, there's always a ceiling. When you go up above, suddenly the ceiling is gone, and you have a very firm feeling of that. And then you go into this wrecked ship, and it is like you walk into a ghost town. child, I can remember playing this game and feeling humidity, the way they have the color contrasting with the different textures of the walls. You get the feeling that this place is wet, that it's muggy, and this is a Super Nintendo game that we're talking about, and they did such a good job.
And for a game that essentially has a fire stage, there's a water stage, there's the green, like, foresty looking stage, every place looks totally different and has different gameplay to go along with it.
When I was younger, when I first played Metroid, I felt like, especially compared to something like Mario, I felt like her movements were a little bit more stiff. The momentum he has when he's like jumping, or his little slides when he's trying to stop from running. Does that bother you now? Like by today's standards, like I gotta feel like it's probably worse now.
You know, I'd probably compare it to playing something like Call of Duty 4 versus like Fallout 3. Fallout 3 just doesn't, you know, it's fun to play in first person and the shooting's kind of fun, but it just doesn't feel as tight and as controlled as Call of Duty is. I suck at the jumping in the game, honestly.
I definitely know what you mean. You know, the inertia of a Mario jump is like, there's just nothing like it. And I think that's the key, is that there's nothing that feels as good as Mario. And they do a good job of making you feel like you're weak at the beginning, and the jumping is hard and the shooting is hard, but as you go on, and by the time you get to the end of the game,
you can just keep jumping in the air as many times as you want. Anything that you touch dies. Your weapons are so powerful.
You're so strong that you just feel like God, and it's great.
If I remember correctly, it's been like 35 years since I played this game. If you just let the title screen sit, it's gonna eventually the cinema will play showing Samus doing all these weird moves. One day I just by accident noticed this stuff. I'm like, whoa, what is all this shit? Like, you'd never really get this direct, like, oh, you can do this now.
Right. You kind of fall down this pit. You realize the only way that you're going to get out of here is to do what this little elf guy, this little elf creature, they do, like this wall jump up the side of this pit. I walked in when he was doing this, and he said, I need the wall jump ability, and I laughed, and I'm like, you have it. You just didn't know you did. Unlike some of the other mechanics, like the jumping, the shooting, the rolling, the bomb mechanics, space jump, screw attack, like everything just works the way you would expect it to work if you played any previous Metroid games. With this wall jump, just doesn't work that well.
The timing is very odd.
It's the timing, and also that I feel like, your inclination is to jump against this wall, hold the opposite direction, and jump off of it, but you have to be pressing towards the wall when you're jumping, and then like I kind of do like a double button press, once in and once out, to finally get it to work correctly.
The first time, it's aggravating.
And you only use it to get up this pit, and then it's so kind of janky that you kind of don't really use it much ever again throughout the course of the game.
So have you beaten it?
I haven't beaten it yet.
So we cannot not discuss the ending. Like one of the most memorable cinematic moments in all of gaming.
Very touching.
Yeah, isn't it?
Scary,
And it's
because you
very
think
scary.
that, I have no control over what's happening. And then suddenly something happens.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Metroids are like pure evil. Like you would never have expected. Like, oh, baby Metroid comes back to rescue you.
It comes full circle.
They
It comes
set it
back
up
to the
at the
very
beginning, yep.
Yeah.
Even throughout Metroid, like, it was like, okay, you landed on this planet. There's something going on, but you didn't have that kind of emotional anything
Until the very end, and then
Until
it's
that happened.
very emotional.
And then you're like, holy shit, that was so awesome. And even to this day, 35 years later, I still remember this moment as one of the greatest moments in gaming.
It really is.
Even though the graphics are old and it definitely shows its age somewhat, I mean, it still feels like a fairly modern game through and through.
Part of that is because games still today are using that as their template. So, like, even when you do play today, you're like, yeah, I mean, it's what I'm playing now.